Hey, everybody, it's our final session of the, let's see, of the lecture portion of the class. Our next session after this will be exam review. So tonight is an intense session. We didn't want to start too late. Hopefully you've had a chance to read the book. Has everyone had a chance to read the book or most of it? If so, it's going to help things go more smoothly. Nobody's giving me any feedback. Okay, I got a thumbs up. Good. All right. Great. Good. It's going to make it a lot easier. It's not that hard of a read. If you haven't had a chance to read it, do try to put that on your agenda as soon as possible. It will be easier tonight if you did read the book. So let me just go ahead and kind of share where we were and catch us back up. Also, you should have gotten an email from Divers Alert Network telling you you're enrolled in insurance. And if you didn't get it, check your junk mail. If you still don't see it, message me and I'll try to get it resent to you. But sometimes it gets in people's junk folders. So, but everyone is now covered with insurance too. Only one of you, I think so far, has sent a headshot photo. Don't forget to send a headshot photo for your certification cards as well. All right, let me go ahead and start sharing. All right, welcome everybody. Can everyone see my screen? Yes, great. So we have the usual teaching team and we are all excited you're here. We have our tentative schedule that is all underway. And as I said, we are now on lecture modules 5 to 7. And our next session is next Thursday, the 9th, and that's our exam review. Tonight is intense. So I'm going to just kind of reiterate some things that we talked about previously, including dive planning and dive safety. So we're going to talk briefly about care of basic gear and a buddy checklist and a gear checklist. We'll do that a little bit later, but I wanted to say that, you know, tonight is intense. I hope you've rested your brain a little bit. So now a common problem with scuba diving is you can see the cylinder there, the strap has fallen off. And so we want to make sure that it's tight. All this is going to make a lot more sense when we're setting up our gear poolside. Let's go over the dive tables. We went over these last time. I'm going to reiterate some of the things that we talked about. Table A, and get your dive tables out if you don't have them out. Table A is your first dive, or if you're only doing one dive, that's the only table you need. Table B, which is below it, is your surface credit. This is basically credit you get for offloading nitrogen out of your body. Table C, the one to the far left and on the bottom, is the next dive. This is when you do more than one dive. There you're going to find your you're going to find your residual nitrogen time and you're going to find your bottom time. And also to remind you, the bottom time starts the moment you descend and it ends at the safety stop. Let's review some dive planning. How long can you stay at 50 feet? Anyone?
80 minutes.
Thank you. 80 minutes. Very good. How long can you stay at 80 feet?
32 minutes. 32.
Great. And how long can you stay at 100 feet?
18.
Excellent. Just to remind you about decompression theory, the whole point of using dive tables is that we are basically trying to make sure that we don't have too much nitrogen in our body. So when we first start diving, we don't have any nitrogen. After dive 1, we get a little bit more. We do a surface interval. We let some of that nitrogen get out of our body. We do dive 2, we get more, and so on. And so what we do is we use dive tables to try to manage the amount of nitrogen in our body. Decompression theory and dive tables, we're going to talk about dive planning and reducing risk from decompression sickness. The slang version of it is BENS. I never say that. You'll hear me say decompression sickness. We'll talk about nitrogen saturation dive tables and dive computers. So just to remind you of the definitions and rules we went over last time, bottom time starts at the surface and ends at the safety stop. This is all on page 15 of your classroom notes workbook, by the way. Required decompression diving is too deep and too long. Recreational diving is no required stops diving. SEI diving limits, we just said, are 50 for 80, 80 for 32, and 100 for 18. And if you look at your dive table on table A, you can see the number next to it. And if you go all the way across to right where it turns black, you can see that as well. If ever you're in between time or depth, you're going to round up to the next graded time or depth. Ascent rates are no faster than 30 feet per minute, and that is very, very slow. It's hand over hand. For high altitude diving, you're going to be even more conservative, and you're going to reduce your times and depths. Whenever you fly after diving, you're going to wait. It says 12 to 24 hours. Definitely, if you're doing repetitive diving, wait 24 hours. If you've been on a reef and it's really shallow, you can do 12 hours, but you can never go wrong if you wait 24 hours. Residual nitrogen time is time against the next dive. It's basically a penalty for having dived multiple times. It's offloading some of the nitrogen. Total dive time is the residual nitrogen time plus the actual bottom time of the next dive. The safety stop should end all dives at 3 minutes for 15 feet. And repetitive dives account for previous dives that day in the past 12 hours. Again, table A, single dive time. You're also going to get your group letter. Table B, surface interval credit. Table C, residual nitrogen time and next dive time. Residual nitrogen time is the top number, and next dive time, in other words, bottom time, is the bottom number. If you ever forget it, it's right there on the bottom. It's going to tell you what it is. And then, of course, we like to say table D on the back is for dummies. We don't do decompression diving with recreational diving. Dive tables on paper, when you take the exam, it's going to look something like this, and you're going to put your letters here. What letter are you always going to start as before you dive? What letter without fail do you start as?
A.
Thank you. A. Very good. And so your first dive time you're going to put here, and your bottom time, and you're going to have 2 letters here, before and after. Your surface interval, SIT, is surface interval time. RNT is residual nitrogen time. ABT is actual bottom time. TBT is total bottom time. All right. So the last we went through, which problem did we go through?
We made it through C, so we're on D now.
We're on D now. Okay, very good. We're actually on C2. All right, so here we go. Here's a problem for you. And what I want you to do is use the chat box or just save your answer. Give me some kind of cue that you have the answer. And here it is. 71 feet for 20 minutes is our first dive. Surface interval is 2 hours and 30 minutes. The second dive, we want to go to 38 minutes. How long can we stay? And it's right there on your screen as well. 71 for 20, 2 hour, 30-minute surface interval. Second dive, we want to go to 38. How long can we stay? All right, a few of you have typed in what you think is the answer. I'm gonna say try again. I want you to remember that 4 of you have guessed wrong so far. The question is, how long can you stay? And the bottom number is bottom time. The top number is residual nitrogen time. So far, the only person who's gotten it correct is Sona. Make sure that you're actually following along on the dive table as well. So let's go back for those of you who are struggling. Find 71 for 20. I'll tell you what, Sona, why don't you unmute yourself and follow along with me since you got it right. 71 for 20. What did you do there?
So we start at table A, and since we're going to 71 feet and we don't have 71 on that table A, we would go down to 80. And then we would make our way towards the right for 20 minutes. So that puts us at column E.
Correct.
Or table B. And then here we have between 1:45 and 2:39 for the time, and we're going to be up at the top for 2 hours and 30 minutes. So that would be the one we choose, which is going to be C. And so if we follow that into table C, at the top in blue, we have the depth. So we can't go to 38 feet because we don't have that number. So we would go to 40. And then the residual nitrogen value would be 29, which is that top number. And then the total time at the bottom would be 106.
Very good. Very good. Does everyone understand that? So you see it depicted here? And Jacob, I think I took one of your slides, so I'm going to let you take over next. But so that was perfect the way she explained it. I like peer teaching a lot. And so does everyone understand it now? Okay, thank you for typing yes in the chat box. Does anyone not understand it?
I was kind of confused because I saw the top number. I saw 29 and
do you see the little box below it? Do you see the little box below it on the table where it tells you what the top number is and the bottom number? The top number is, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I see
So
now.
the top number is great. The top number is residual nitrogen time.
Got it. Yeah, I was just explaining my initial confusion.
Yeah, yeah. It's common until you kind of get the hang of it. But whenever it says how long can you stay, that's referring to bottom time. Therefore, look at the bottom number. That's how I remember it. So bottom time, bottom number. Okay. All right. I guess I will continue then. Hang on a second. Any other questions about this before we move on? Okay. Okay. So let's try another one here. Problem D, we have 40 feet for 1 hour as our first dive. We have a 50 minute surface interval. The second dive, we want to go to 80 feet. How long can we stay? Everyone go ahead and figure that out and see what you come up with. Wow, you guys are fast and you're getting it. Gabrielli, go ahead and try again. Just try one more time. Good. Keep typing. Has anyone not have it yet? Okay, thank you, Julia. Great. Sonia, very good. Thank you, Daily Family. All right, I think everyone's getting it here. So you all said 3 minutes. So 40 for 1 hour. Tell you what, let's have somebody talk me through this. Who is willing to talk through how we came up with this?
I can do this one.
Great, thank you.
So on table A, we go down the side to the depth of 40 feet. That's an exact number. We go to the right, 60 minutes, but since we don't have 60, we go up to 63. From there, you go down and you're in column G. For 50 minutes, it falls between the 10-minute and 52-minute mark, which puts you at row G again. And then at 80 feet, we go left over until we reach 80 vertically, and that gives us 3.
Great. Did anyone not get that? Well, very good. So, but that would be a lousy dive, wouldn't it? A 3-minute dive? So what are our choices? Logically, what makes sense here?
Either dive at a higher, like don't go so low, or wait longer before diving.
Right. You could definitely wait longer before diving. You could reduce your depth. Typically what we do is we do our deepest dive first. And this is one of the reasons we do our deepest dive first. And we'll get into that in a bit. We'll do, we'll basically reverse them to show you what it looks like. But certainly if you were planning to do an 80-foot dive, you would stay out longer so that you could offload some nitrogen, right? So very good. All right, let's go ahead and get into 3 dive problems. Get ready for your brain to be blown a little bit, okay? All right, hold tight with me here. This is pretty difficult stuff. So by the way, with that problem, if you stayed up for 2 hours, you'd have a 10-minute dive, which still wouldn't be great. Okay, here we go. Get your brains ready. Here is a 3 dive problem. I'm going to walk you through it. And I'm going to walk you through the first one, and then you're going to solve the next one. Okay. So here's our problem. We want to do 3 dives. And you might be saying, why would I ever do 3 dives? Well, guess what? I do 3 dives all the time. When I go out on a charter boat in South Florida, especially, it's a lot of effort to do a 2-tank dive. And so we do 3. So we do 3, whenever we go shark diving, we do 3, we make, a nice day of it. And it's fun. And it's typical on dive boats to have a 1-hour surface interval. So this is a fairly common kind of profile that you would have on a charter boat. So here we are. Our first dive is 60 feet for 20 minutes. We have a 1-hour surface interval. Second dive, 50 for 20. We have a 1-hour surface interval between the second and third dive. The third dive, we want to go to 40 feet. How long can we stay? So we find where the 60 is and we follow it over to 20. We round up and we follow that down to D. We are a D diver. Okay. Stay with me and tell me if this gets confusing at all. I know you know this part so far. We stay out for 1 hour and that moves us from a D to a C. We're now a C diver. Okay. All right. Here's the part that's a little tricky. With second dive, we want to go to 50, but we're not asking how long can we stay. We don't really care about the minutes right now. What we want to do is go find where the C and the 50 intersect. So we look at the 50, which is on the very top. And you remember the depths on table C are across the top. And we find where the C and the 50 intersect. And we're going to grab that top number because that's the residual nitrogen time. We're not asking how long we can stay. We're doing a 3-dive problem. And so we want to grab the top number. So the top number is 23. Now we're going to take the residual nitrogen time of 23 and add it to the depth of the, to the time of the second dive. And that's going to give us a new total bottom time of 43. Okay. So that's the part that's complicated. The second dive, we're doing a lot of extra work because we've got that extra nitrogen to add to us, right? So we have 20 actual bottom time. We have 23 residual nitrogen time. That gives us 43 total bottom time. Then we have one more thing to do. We're going to go back up to table A, okay? And we're going to follow 50 feet for 43. You see where the 43 comes from? 50 feet for 43. Okay. And so again, we're going to round up. We're going to follow that down and we're going to grab that letter. And we are a G diver. And then we're going to be out for an hour. That makes us one letter less as an F diver. Now we're going to proceed as we did with a 2-dive problem. The question is, how long can we stay? We're going to find where the 40 intersects with the G. And we see that the top number, residual nitrogen time, is 55. The bottom number, 80, is bottom time. And so that's our answer, is 80. This is what it looks like depicted on a chart. Okay. So of course you would have had an an A in the very beginning as well. So you would have had an A, and then you have D, and then you're a C, and you take that 20 plus 23 equals 43. You were a G, you were an F. Okay. And then you had 80 was the answer. Does that make sense to everybody? Is anyone confused? Awesome if you get this. All right, we're going to test it out because Jacob is going to take over and Jacob is going to give you the next dive problem. Anyone have questions before we continue?
So wait, the problem we just did, what was the initial question that was asked to solve that problem?
Yeah, so it was a 3-dive problem and it was asking how long we could stay on our 3rd dive. And so Jacob's going to give you a new problem that has the same question. And just remember, the most important thing is on that 2nd dive, you're going to go over to table C, grab your top number, residual nitrogen time, add it to your actual bottom time of your 2nd dive to get your total bottom time. Then you're going to go back up to table A, same depth for the 2nd, new number, and continue the problem. Okay. All right. So Jacob's going to give you this problem, and Jacob, talk through it. It's always helpful to talk through it, to read what it is, and then let them figure it out.
So you start off with maximum depth for the first dive was 78 feet for a total time of 27 minutes. Take an hour surface interval. Then you go down for 50 feet, 30 minutes. Then an hour 30 surface interval. And then what would be your max time at 44 feet?
Very good. All right, everybody work on that and do the same thing as before. You're going to type in the chat box once you have a correct answer.
And does anyone have the letters for as you're going through, like what your group letter is? Okay. So Sona.
Yeah, I think I did something wrong, actually. I don't know
So
where-
did you
I
make
see
sure
the
to
K
round
and J.
up?
I did round up. So I have the 72. Ah, okay, hold on. I know where I went wrong.
Got it figured out.
Yeah, I figured out where I went wrong. Sorry.
Yep. So for this problem G, 100 foot for 10 minutes. You always start as an A diver. 20-minute surface interval, and then you'll go down to 50 feet for 50 minutes with an hour 45 surface interval. And what is your max time for 40 feet? And then also what are the group letters as you're going through?
So Jacob, are you seeing the chat? And if not, let me just tell you that there are some people who are stuck. So can I give a hint or do you want to give the hint?
I'm reading them, see.
Okay. Is everyone
Uh,
clear on problem F before we move on to problem G?
No, I'm not
Yeah.
clear on problem F.
Yeah, go back then. Please go back to problem F. We always want to make sure everybody's good before we move forward. So talk us through it again.
So when you go 78 feet for 27 minutes, you are a G diver. That's your group letter. You stay on the surface for an hour, that makes you an F diver. You have a residual nitrogen of 42. You go down to 50 feet for 30 minutes. You're gonna add the 30 and the 42. That gives you 72. Then you're a K diver, and then you'll do an hour and 30 surface interval.
Wait,
You're a
Jacob.
J.
Right there is the part that I
There-
don't understand.
Yeah, that part is exactly what people use to get confused.
Yeah.
So after you add the 42 plus 30 and you get 72, you go to table A again, and then you go to 50 feet, right? And you look to the right to 72 minutes. So despite you are really diving 30 minutes, in the table A, you have to calculate like you're diving 72 minutes. And that's because you have that extra residual nitrogen in your body. So you go to 50 feet, table A, 50 feet, 72 minutes.
I understand that, but where did you add 30 to 42? Where did you get the 30 from?
The 30
The
was given to you. Yeah, the
given
30
to
was
you by
given
the-
to you.
by the program.
The 30 was given to you, and so you basically were given, 78 for 27, 50 for 30, and 44, how long can you stay? And so you already had that. And so just remember, the second dive is when you have the most work that needs to be done, when you have a 3-dive problem. So like Victor said, you're going to go over on table C and get that top number, the residual nitrogen time, which was 42. And then you're going to add it to your actual bottom time of your second dive, which was given to you, 30, to get 72, your total bottom time.
Got it.
Now you take 50 for 72, same dive, new problem, right? 50 for 72, you go back up to table A, 50 for 72, and you continue the problem. So if you go 50 for 72, you find then that what letter are you? Right, a K diver, and then you continue the problem.
Thank you.
Does that make sense? Is anyone still stuck or is it becoming more clear?
That made
Yeah,
it
that
clear.
helped a lot. Thank you.
Okay, great, great. So now, Jacob, go ahead and give them problem G and let's see. I have a feeling, just keep in mind that second dive is the one with all the work, right? Here you are, you're given everything. And don't forget, when you get to that second dive, you're going to disregard the 50 minutes at first. You're going to go ahead and find where the letter intersects with 50, the depth on table C. You're going to grab that top number with your residual nitrogen time. You're going to add it to the 50 to get your total bottom time. Go back up to table A, 50 feet for the new number and continue. Okay.
So I saw everyone was starting to get the right answer, so I just showed the rest of it.
Yeah, I normally like to wait until I have everyone, you know, or at least most everyone, not just half the people. There were only 4 people who had typed it. 5 people. So
I didn't count to see how many people were in here.
yeah, we have a bunch. If you look at the very bottom of the screen, you can see we have 18 participants, including the leadership team. So, but they're all getting it. People are still typing. So good.
It doesn't show me that.
It's on
For
the
the
very
18.
bottom. Very, very
Doesn't
bottom.
show it for me.
All right, good. The answers are still coming in.
I mean,
Good.
they're all getting the same answer.
So far, everyone's got the same answer. This is great news. Normally, once you get it, like you get it, it's not going to be a problem after this. Once you get it once, you're like, okay, I got it now. The second dive, that's where all the work happens. So did anyone not get it? Okay, good, Julia and Julia. I was talking to some people about how we have 2 Julias, 3 Virginias, Gabriella. All right. I think everyone has it. Do we miss anyone? Okay, good job. So what I like to do here is just, if you don't mind, Jacob, have somebody, you know, read through how they got their answer so that we're all on the same page when we go into the next problem. We need a volunteer.
I'll do this one because I was a little bit hesitant, but I did get the right answer. So
Yay.
I feel like helping me teach will solidify this process in my brain. Okay, so you start at table A with 100 feet depth. You go right over to 12 minutes because you're rounding up from 10. That makes you a D diver. And then you see we're going to stop for 20 minutes, which falls in the 10 minutes to 52 minutes category, which makes you, again, a D diver. And then you go over to where it crosses with 50, and you see 29 is the top number. That is what you're going to add to 50 minutes to get 79 minutes. Then you go back up to table A. That's what you're going to look for. You're going to start at 50 feet and then go over to 79 minutes, which is the 8, it goes to 80, which makes you a K diver. And then you're going down to Okay, yeah, you're stopping for an hour and 45. So that is, wait, they get like offline? I can't tell if that's J or K. Oh, no, J or I. And then you go over from there to table C, where you're looking for where it intersects with 40. Yeah. And then the bottom number is 50.
Very good. And you're absolutely right that when you teach it, it actually helps it kind of stay in your mind about how to do it. And so it'll help you with the next one. Great.
Move on now, or
Yeah.
problem H.
Only do the top part first. This is the problem I was telling you about. So we're only going to do the part above the line. This is simple. This is a 2 dive problem. Just the top part first, and then you'll have them do the second part.
Yep. So on the first dive, you're going to go down for 80 feet, 20 minutes. Surface interval for 15 minutes, which is 10. Second dive is 40 feet, and what's your max time that you can have? Okay.
About half of the students have typed the same number so far. Does anyone not have the answer yet? Anyone not have the answer? Okay, keep working then. Don't reveal it yet. Good. Very good. I think everyone has it now. Am I missing anyone? All right. So Jacob, everyone guessed 90. Good
Now,
job.
for the second problem of it, so the first dive is 40 feet for 45 minutes with a surface interval of 15 minutes. And what would be the max time at 80 foot?
Two people already have the answer. 3. All right, most people now have the answer. We're still waiting on a few more people. Great. So far, everyone has the same answer. Numbers are still coming in. Excellent. All right, are we missing anyone? Did anyone not have an answer? All right, everyone said 7, Jacob.
Mm-hmm. So finding the surface interval. So for dive 1, it's 80 feet for 30 minutes with an unknown surface interval. And the second dive is 80 feet for 20 minutes. And then what would be an appropriate surface interval to allow for the second dive?
So far, everyone's got the same answer. What I like to do for those of you who may not have figured this out yet is I like to put one finger on table A and I follow 80 for 30. And then I put one finger on table C and to find 80 for 20 on table C, it's a little more challenging. You're going to look at the top number on the very top of the table, which is 80, and you're going to follow it down to the bottom number because you're looking at bottom time. And of course, you may need to round up if there's not a 20 there, and then you find where your fingers intersect. So Sonia, go ahead and try. Sonia, go ahead and try what I just mentioned, and you're probably going to find a different answer. You're looking for the range. Okay.
Are you
You can do the minimum, by the way. You don't have to say the whole range. So the question is asking what's the minimum surface interval time? Yeah.
Are you rounding down?
No, never round down, always round up.
Okay.
Sonia, can you just confirm that number that you have? Or you may be reading a number wrong? You're getting closer.
Yeah, I'm just having a hard time keeping all the lines and columns.
I
straight.
know. Sometimes helps to use a straight edge or, a sheet of paper, a ruler, something beside it, a book.
I've got to round up on the
But
table.
I think you're good. I think you're just maybe not seeing the number right because you're only off by like 3 minutes. So
Maybe at 20, which will put us right on 20. That's an E. Then you come across, and I was 240.
no,
Mhm.
no.
So where am I messing up?
Okay. Has everyone finished yet? Has everyone gotten the answer? Anyone not gotten the answer? Who would like to peer teach now and talk us through this? To help Sonia. We need a volunteer, please.
I'll do it. I can do it.
Great.
I'll do it. Which one?
Go ahead.
Okay, anyway, you started 80 feet here, and since it's 30 minutes, you round up and go to 32, and then you go to table C because you don't have the surface time. So then you go to 80 feet over here, and you find the closest number to 20, and you round up and go to 22, and then you come down, so that's the B row intersecting with the H row. So it'd be 6, 32, and 5, 17.
Okay.
Come down.
I see that now. I just was rounding the wrong way.
Great. Just never round down, always round up.
Okay. I got it.
Good. Jacob will give you another opportunity. So thank you for teaching too.
So another one trying to find the surface interval. So the first dive is at 70 feet for 35 minutes. What would be an appropriate surface interval for a dive at 50 feet for 50 minutes after the first dive. Okay, I think that's everybody. Assuming it is.
Is anyone not finished? Everyone has it? Okay. All right, I guess we'll go ahead then.
The answer was 3:30.
Everybody got it right.
So similar problem, 70 feet, 32 minutes for the first dive, unknown surface interval, 50 feet for 30 minutes would be an appropriate surface interval. I guess I didn't even click, but I guess I touched something.
And again, it's asking what the minimum surface interval. So those of you putting ranges, you just need to put the lower number. So far, everyone has it right. We're still missing some people.
Wondering if my mouse is acting up because I didn't even.
Okay.
So
And before you go through this one, have you already practiced this? You know what the plan is for this slide?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you weren't supposed to reveal that yet.
Oh.
All right, Jacob. So whenever you teach, it's really important to practice things. So he just gave the answer away, but what I was going to say was the first dive is 60 for 70, and table A wasn't supposed, that next line wasn't supposed to be there yet. So everyone look at your dive table, 60 for 70, and what do you see? And then everyone says what? What do you see?
You're gonna die.
Maybe not, but you might have some medical problems. Okay.
Abort mission immediately.
Right. Okay, so now Jacob, go ahead and click. Right. So yeah, we were only supposed to stay for 51. We went for 70. What do we need to do?
We would need to come back up and wait some time.
Well, actually, we're going to stay at we're going to flip to table D for dummies. So go ahead and reveal the next line there, Jacob. Okay. Now turn to table D, which is the back side of your dive tables. And Jacob, you can take it over from here.
So it says a decompression is required. If you go over that time limit, you'll have to decompress just because you're at a higher risk of decompression sickness, just because you've gone beyond your limits. So your tissues have been slightly oversaturated. So you'd have to make a mandatory stop at 20 feet for 14 minutes and your safety stop.
So wait, I have a question. You can stay the full 70 minutes and then on the way up, you will stop at 20 feet for 14 minutes and then again for 3 minutes at 15 feet?
No. You're doing a deco stop instead of a safety stop. And it sounds simple, right? Well, I'm just going to need to stay there for 14 minutes. But what's the problem with that? You may not have enough air. I've seen this. I've seen people do this, and we've had to bring them an entire new scuba unit for them to, safely decompress. And then everybody who's sitting there on the boat waiting for them to get through their deco stop because they messed up is really upset with them because they're making people late. And some of the time that, it's a lot longer than 14 minutes you need to stay. And not everyone has that much air. And so it's not a good thing to do. So instead of doing the safety stop 15 feet for 3 minutes, you're doing a deco stop 20 feet for 14 minutes in this case. And we'll get into more deco problems where you'll see, sometimes the time is a lot longer that you're going to need to stay. And then you're not going to get to do your second dive, by the way. So
wait, so I'm a little confused. So how long are you at the bottom? You were at the bottom for 51 minutes and then you spent 14 minutes at 20 feet, or you were
look
at
at the problem. Look at the problem. It says 60 for 70.
So you're at the bottom for the full 70 minutes.
And remember, anytime we use dive tables,
it's
not at the bottom for the full time. We use the dive tables to be conservative and say 70 the entire time, but we know that we're not at 70 the entire time. It's just that even if we hit 70, we use 70.
Okay, so you come back up and the 14 minutes is counted in the 70. And so is the 3 minutes that you're also going to
No.
stop.
No.
I'm so confused.
Okay. Jacob, do you want to take over or do you want me to continue?
I mean,
you're teaching here. Do you want to explain what this is when the safety stop, we said this, the time of a dive time is when the safety stop happens, and then talk through a deco stop.
so in depth for a deco stop, or just as simple as I can make it?
As simple as you can make it.
Basically you're required to stop at 14 or 20 feet for 14 minutes. And once you Some agencies say that at that point you can just go up, but it is better to do a safety stop with it. The dive ends at the safety stop.
No, it's either a deco stop or a safety stop. So sorry to add any confusion to you there. You're either doing a deco stop or a safety stop, but I can tell you that most dive operators very much frown on this, and you will not be allowed. Remember the 3-tank dive I said that we often do? You won't be able, I've seen it happen. You won't be able to do your other 2 dives. So you paid for 3 dives and you do 1 and you're done, because they frown upon doing unplanned deco dives. Okay. So a safety stop is done from 15 to 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet. A deco stop is done at 20 feet for a longer period of time, depending on how bad you messed up. I can tell you in all of my diving, I've never had an unplanned deco stop, because I pay attention to my depth and I pay attention to my time, and it's just not an issue if you're being careful when you dive. Okay.
This is just because they went over the allotted amount of time, correct?
Correct. They were only supposed to go for 51 and they went for 70. It's the only reason. Does that help at all, Nora?
It was Sona that was
Sona?
asking.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to clarify that, you know, since table A is saying that the max that you have is 51 minutes, you come back up to 20 feet, you don't have any oxygen. So
Not oxygen, air.
or air. So does someone go and get you air? Does your body give you
Well,
air?
that's a good question. You could be in real trouble. You might not be able to accomplish this. And in which case you might have to come up and, you know, go on oxygen, or, you know, it's just not really smart to do this ever. I have saved a couple of people who've done this. One by, you know, sharing my air with them, and 2 by bringing a whole different scuba unit down to them. And, you know, that's excessive. So just don't do this. Okay. Does that make sense in terms of like what you're doing? You're either doing a deco stop or you're doing a safety stop. But in recreational diving, we're never doing a deco stop unless we really messed up. Okay.
I have a question. So logistically, if you've gone over your time, and you don't have your dive tables laminated and in front of you, how do you, while you're underwater, figure out how long you need to do your decompression stop?
So the tables that you have are waterproof, and you could put them in your BCD pocket. Yeah. And so it is really good to, we always say, plan your dive and dive your plan. Oh, look, Victor just typed that too. Very good. Plan your dive and dive your plan. That's what we say. Plan your dive and dive your plan. So before we ever go in the water, we say, hey, our max depth is going to be this, you know, and how long are we going to stay? And we actually err on the conservative side of that. However, there are times when you're going to see something so cool, like a whale shark comes along. You'd planned to go to 60, but a whale shark came along and you followed that whale shark to, you know, to 75 feet. Now this is if you're an advanced diver, right? And so you need to know what to do. I'll tell you, after you get experience under your belt doing dive tables, then you look at dive computers. If you really get into diving, you look at computers. And what a computer will do, somebody earlier said, were you at 70 the whole time? The answer is no, you're never at 70 the whole time, because you've got that, and you've got that descent, you got the ascent. Quite frankly, you would suck through air a lot if you were that deep for that long. What a computer does is it compensates for, oh, this person was mainly at, you know, 50 feet. Not 60 feet. And this person, you know, it starts to adjust. So it's less conservative than dive tables, but we really like people to know their tables, plan their dives, and then, you know, once you get more experience under your belt, have a computer. So I have a computer, but I know my dive tables really well. And I still use my dive tables for planning, and I know what to do, you know, if I mess up, but I don't mess up because I'm always paying attention. Only time I ever messed up, I was saving somebody's life, and she just about killed me. And that's a whole other story that I'll save for later tonight if we have time. Okay. And, you know, this is where your training pays off. I'm alive today. She's alive today because I was cool and calm and she was not. And we were in the middle of the Galapagos Island. Okay. That's the only time in my life I've ever run out of air. So All right, so Jacob, give him the next problem, and hopefully it'll all kind of come to light. This is actually explaining what we just talked about. So you're going to go to table D, and go ahead and click through it and talk them through what you're doing here.
So on table D, you'd go the feet, you'd find 60, then you'd find 70, then moving on to get 14. That would be your decompression stop at 20 feet. And that's it. So that's the process of figuring it out.
Okay, continue then.
So you do a dive at 80 feet for 50 minutes. What is your required decompression? Okay, seems like everybody's getting it.
Does anyone not have it?
Guess everyone's got it. So it is 24 at 20. From O. So the dive plan is 80 feet for 25 minutes. But you end up doing a dive at 110 feet for 25 minutes.
This is where you saw that whale shark. So you had a plan, but you didn't plan your dive.
So what would be the required decompression? Okay, does anyone not have it?
Some are still working. Still typing. Did anyone not get it yet? Okay, I think we have it all. Go ahead. Very
14
good.
to 20. So special procedures planning. So cold strenuous, use next greater time. If you have a faster ascent, extend safety stop by 2 minutes, making it a 5-minute safety stop. If you have omitted decompression, remain out 24 hours and breathe oxygen, and that's 100% O2. Contingency plans, surface down current, can't reach exit. So using a dive computer, like we were saying with the charts. So the chart is this main line, just forms a nice, perfect straight lines. When you're diving, you're probably going to be going up for a bit, and then you go down to like 20 feet, and then you go to 40, and then you go to 60, then you come back up to 40, and it's just calculating that instead of you being at 60 for the entire time. So the little dotted lines are showing what the computer would see if that was your dive profile, and in between the spaces in between the dotted and the solid line is unsaturated, and there's a multi-level dive, and then safety stop on the top right. There's different types of computers. Standard, advanced, air integrated, and hoseless. The standard is it can be wrist mounted, and it just logs your depth, time, and temperature, and very basic stuff. More advanced one will show like basically the exact same things. It just also has like ascent rate and other features in it, like maybe time to fly and things like that, and also Bluetooth or ability to transmit. Air integrated, it just replaces your high pressure submersible pressure gauge. And then hoseless is the AI transmitter versions, which can be wrist mounted. There's also mask HUD mounted. So basic features of this: current depth, no decompression time, max depth, bottom time, your ascent rate, logbook, memory, pre-dive planning, and nitrox compatible. Some have multiple gases, some don't. Advanced computers, they kind of simulate everything. You can also plan a dive on some of them, so you can actually set what you want your dive to be and plan it out, and the computer will make you follow that. Also download, bookmark, etc. Air integrated, same features as advanced computers. They're more accurate pressure than analog gauges. Analog, you're just going to kind of see around what it is. They usually only have numbers for the hundreds. This will show you like exact, and then also calculate your air time remaining. Air integrated AI does the same, very similar things to the integrated via hose, and it's specifically coded to keep other AI computers from messing with your transmitter and everything. They also have a very limited range. So manual activation, there's a couple different kinds. This one, you just press a button, turns it on, it tells you all that. There's also water activation, which is once you hit like 5 feet and continue descending, it just automatically starts up. Dive mode display, so it shows like your dive time, which is on the bottom right square, and then in the middle left square is your remaining air time, or an assumption of it. Current depth on top, maximum depth to the right of that, and then remaining air, no decompression time, along with your cylinder pressure. And that's just on the main screen for that. So increased depth will affect the air time. So as you go deeper, it's going to lower the air time because gas is being more compressed, so you'll breathe it faster. You can see it's reduced whenever it goes down to 70, and also 34 to decompression time. That's the time you have until you hit where you need to do the table D and do decompression. So never go beyond that. And as you go deeper, it lowers the amount of time you have for no decompression. And this also changes based on gas, but you'll just be using air. So ascent rate, some computers have an alarm. Well, most of them have an alarm where if you go up too fast, it'll actually beep at you very, very loudly. You can kind of watch the bar. You want to keep the bar more towards the green, which is lower, like the bottom 2 bars on it. And then you have a yellow and a red. You want to keep it in the green. So anytime you get a computer, make sure you read the manual for it. If you ask about it at the dive shop, if they have some experience with it, they can more than likely tell you what it is. Best way to review or figure out which computer may be best for you is actually asking other divers that have computers and see what they like about it or what they like about other ones. You also make sure you learn it very well. So dive planning, make sure you have like your nitrogen saturation, dive tables, dive computers and everything. Dive safely, don't get bent. Just don't get decompression sickness.
And Jacob, you can stop sharing for a moment. I don't know, the leadership team, I'm not sure if you saw my text messages, but Bill, would you mind starting here? We're subtracting some numbers from the slides of the assignments that I gave. Thank you, Jacob. You did a great job. Any questions so far? That was the hardest part, guys. You did good. That was the hardest part. It wasn't so bad, was it? Lewis is like, yay. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, no problem. Welcome, everyone. So diving opportunities. We're going to cover continuing diving education, local diving, dive travel, destinations, leadership opportunities, career opportunities, course review, and some exam preparation. So the hierarchy here for SCI is you start as an open water diver, and you can either take the path as a diver, go to open water plus diver, advanced open water, advanced plus diver, and then level 4 master diver, or you could go the other path, become a dive master, assistant instructor, instructor trainer, and course director, just like Gabrielle. And other advanced diving. So you have extended range diving, you have cavern diving, cave diving, shipwreck. You want to make sure that you have the proper training and equipment and experience for the type of diving that you're doing. You don't want to go and get yourself into any trouble. Make sure that you're actually logging your dives. I log mine, and I do try to keep up with them. I logged one just the other day for a nice dive that we had. All right, that keeps a record. It's required at some dive resorts, required for further training. It's helpful if injured while diving, and it's fun to reference for years later. Some of the local diving that we have is the Gulf of Mexico. So you got the Panama City area, you can take a charter boat. You got a Panama City beach like the jetties, Pensacola, Destin. You have spring diving, Blue Grotto, Troy Springs, Manatee Springs, Morrison, Jenny, and hundreds of other springs around the state of Florida. You have river diving, the Wasissa River, the big spring out there, Big Blue, the Wakulla River and the St. Mark's River, and there's more. The Atlantic diving, you have Jupiter, Deerfield, West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Key Largo, and Key West, and more. So dive destinations. Dive destinations, someplace you want to go to dive, right? You want to go someplace and take it out on a charter boat and be shown where all the good cool stuff is. And we're going to scroll through some pictures here of some stuff that you could possibly see while you're out diving, and what we have here. And hopefully Victor won't get too cross with me if I just call
Victor's
it a
part,
grouper.
Victor will actually share like more of the, he's like so savvy with all this stuff. So it's awesome.
That's right. All right, so we have artificial reefs and wrecks, and you see one right there. You have the little creatures, the Christmas tree worms, and looks like a starfish and a barrier reef bull. You have the goby, an anemone fish, which actually lives in the anemone. And you have hermit crabs, which interestingly enough, they're not a crab, kind of like a blue crab, in that they don't have a uniformly hard exoskeleton, and believe it or not, they cannot grow their own shells. So you have other night creatures. You have the lobster and the squid. Yes, the squid, not the cuttlefish. All right, and then you have an exciting find here. I believe a lot more of those may come out at night, but you have a nice eel there. And dive travel, someplace you want to go diving. Does anybody have any plans upcoming?
They
for your
do.
diving?
Tell us. I know we have people going on trips.
Yes, we do. Well, it's good to hear. Anyone want to share real quick?
Belize. Sonia says Belize. I love Belize.
Wow, nice.
Megan and I are going to the Bahamas,
Awesome. Which island are you going to?
Nassau.
Okay, good. Julie is going to the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah, I was just about to say,
Grace is going to the Cayman Islands.
I'm going to the Georgia Aquarium dive.
Yay! Julie is going to Georgia Aquarium dive with us.
So lots of people have lots of cool dives planned.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. And there you have dive travel. Some of you guys will get to experience some of that very soon. Looks like you have some additional wrecks here. Some divers diving along.
We love shipwrecks, don't we?
Yes, we do. They are great. So then you see what looks like a reef here.
Yeah. That guy's doing something wrong. What's he doing wrong?
Anybody want to guess what he's doing wrong?
Touching it.
Yeah,
touching it.
exactly. Good divers don't touch things.
And then dive destinations again. You see they got the charter boat there. They have the hotel. You go in there and you stay. They put you up kind of, some of them are all inclusive where you get meals and anything else. Then you go out diving a couple times a day. A lot of them have a built-in dry day at the end in case you're flying back to where you're coming from. All right, then refreshing your skills. You need to make sure that you have 10 or more dives a year. You want to go ahead and refresh if you have fewer. You want to subscribe and read. Dan's a good place to read. They have a lot of good stories and a lot of good information. Divers Alert Network. Join a scuba club. Like Scuba Friends, we always post events on there when we go diving. Jacob, in fact, posted an event over this past weekend to go out to Troy Springs. It's a nice dive. And finally, just go diving. You don't want to take the class and then stop diving, take the class and then go. All right, so in career opportunities, you have recreational industry, you have the dive stores, resorts, teaching, scientific research, underwater operations, salvage, repairs, public safety diving. So military diving is mission oriented, includes salvage, ordnance disposal, combat missions, the explosive ordnance teams. They're responsible for removing submerged mines. That would have to be a very stressful job, I would think.
Yeah. We've actually had let me just say, we've had a bunch of people who started out with open water divers with us, and they went on to military careers in scuba, and several have gone on to biology careers and some underwater crime scene careers. So there's definitely, opportunities out there if you don't just want to do it for fun.
That's right. And so you have leadership opportunities. You have a Divemaster, the prerequisites to entering, just 40 hours. The leadership prep manual, you can download that for free. The assistant instructor, which is, excuse me, an additional 25 hours for prerequisites. The instructor is 40 hours. The instructor institute schedules, the skills, knowledge necessary, and insurance requirements, which are probably no joke.
They're not. There's a lot of insurance we have.
All
Right, Victor?
And with that, I believe I'll turn it over to
Yeah,
Victor.
this is your last slide, and just these are some websites to keep in mind. I did want to tell you, if you lose your certification card, the best thing to do is reach out to me, because when you get your card, I'm going to take a picture of you holding your card, and I'm going to have a record. And I have had people call me in the middle of nowhere and, and at a deserted island and say, do you happen to have my information and I will help you? Alternatively, you can go to seidiving.org on the website and log in using your birth date and some other information and reach it there, or you can contact them. But do join Scuba Friends on Facebook and stay plugged in with us. Thank you, Bill. Bill is super active on our Scuba Friends site. He's really great about posting events, and we're diving all the time, like all the time, right? So I'm sorry I missed it, but Victor and Jacob and Bill and Ronnie and I think others got to dive on Sunday. So yeah, so you can go ahead, Victor, and take over from here if you don't mind.
Okay. I'm still on my browser. So let's see how this is gonna work. You see my slide now?
We can see yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Okay, because I don't see anyone.
Yeah, we see Divemaster now.
Okay, good. There it goes. All right, so as Bill mentioned, the first leadership position that you reach is Divemaster with the 40 hours. And Divemaster is basically you can work with an instructor, so you can support the pool sessions, the lectures. You can support checkout dives. You can work for a resort and as an underwater guide, and is the first step if you would like to become an instructor. So that was the first thing we all did to become dive masters. If you want to pursue the instructor certification after dive master, first you become assistant instructor with 25 extra hours. You learn more about teaching classes, and during that process you increase your knowledge and skills to become an instructor. And most of the time you do an internship with an instructor, so you teach classes, you teach in the pool session, you do some teaching during the checkout dive, and that's the way you build up your way to become a scuba instructor. So once you get certified as a scuba instructor, the best part is to teach others to enjoy this magnificent activity. You share the underwater world, and for some people it can become a part-time job, a full-time job. Sometimes I actually share some posting of opening for instructors, even if dive shops. And recently, I think the University of Central Florida, they were looking for an instructor too. You can work in a dive store or independently, as Gabrielle does. Well, the next module is more about the environment, what we're going to see when we go out there, and especially in the ocean. Here we do a lot of, at the beginning, we do a lot of springs, and we can touch on that at some point as well, but these slides are more focused on the marine environment, right? So because we look at the ocean as the the place we want to go when we go diving. In my 35 years diving, 98% of my dive has been in the ocean. I started diving in springs when I moved in here. I never dived in freshwater before ever in my life. So that was pretty awesome. And this module will go through aquatic biology, some potential dangers, some issues with conservation and preservation of resources and the underwater environment. Some aquatic conditions and boat diving. Okay, let's start with the biology. And it's important to know that in the ocean, we will have all this group that we call drifters. So drifters is any organism that is moved by the current. So they can move up and down in the water column, and maybe they can make some movements horizontally, but they can't swim against the current. So they are just there drifting, right? So they're in the bottom of the food chain, and mainly are represented by the zooplankton, which is the animal fraction of the plankton. And then we have the phytoplankton, which is the plant fraction of the plankton. But also there are a lot of algae that works as drifters. And as we all know, algae, they're plants, so they use the light to produce food through photosynthesis. Some interesting places that people visit is the kelp forest. Of course, that's in the western USA. These are cooler waters, but it's full of critters. Especially, you can see some like really large endemic fish and perhaps some sea otters or something like that. Actually, today I was here in Keaton Beach and I saw an otter right there near the exit to the canal. It was pretty awesome.
We've actually seen quite a few river otters in around Big Blue too.
Yeah,
but let me tell you, the first kelp forest I got to dive in with was in South Africa, and
Wow.
I saw my first pajama shark. I didn't even know such a shark existed. It's got stripes down the whole
Yeah.
thing. It was so cool, but it was cold. It was 58 degrees.
Wow, yeah, that's cool.
It's miserable cold.
All right, then beside the drifter, we have the swimmers, and basically that includes any other type of fish or organism that can swim against the current. So they can move anywhere they want. One of the examples is the great barracuda. It's common in the Caribbean and here, and they are very much associated with any artificial reef that includes metal. So today, this morning, I had a meeting with FWC Artificial Reef Program because we're planning for this year and actually next year monitoring program, which you are all welcome to participate. And so we're going to be doing a lot of dives during the weekends in the artificial reef. And when we go to Boca Reef, which is one artificial reef, the one that we focus our monitoring effort, in the scrap metal region, we will see some really large barracuda. So awesome fish. Very common in our area as well, the groupers and snappers. And sometimes we will see these giant jewelfish or Goliath grouper. We have a couple of residents Goliath grouper in 2 reef sites that we visit. So it's always amazing. And when we dive to out of Panama City, we have seen some of these beautiful creatures that can grow up to 400, 500 pounds or even bigger. Another interesting thing that we are looking at when we go reef diving is, of course, reef fish. Here to the left, we have some damsel fish. In the center, butterfly fish. When we dive from the boats in Panama City, usually we will see all these 2 species. Well, this has different names. Most of the people know them as buckfish. Really beautiful animal to watch. Then we also have some, what we call the bottom dwellers. Those are species that are really associated with the bottom, of course, like scorpionfish and stonefish. And one specific characteristic they have is the camouflage. So here in this picture, we have right in the center, this scorpionfish. And we need to be aware, and that's one of the reasons why we say, please try to stay away from the bottom, try not to touch stuff, because some of these animals are really good in camouflage, and you don't want to touch or step in one of these creatures, right? Also, we have some invasive species like the lionfish, which was brought into the Atlantic and the Caribbean and even the Gulf of Mexico from the Pacific. It's become a great nuisance for our fisheries because they eat small fish that are targeted by our recreational and commercial fisheries. In some places where the artificial reef that we go, we haven't seen in 5 years any lionfish. So this year I'm planning a couple of night dives to see if we will find lionfish during the night. Then we have some invertebrates like all kind of crabs that crawl between the rocks, and spiny lobster. These are more common south, especially south in the Keys. and octopus. And this is a night picture in the night, but Gabrielle, she's the octopus lady. Everywhere she goes, she will always say, "There's an octopus," and picture the octopus. And sometimes I had never seen them, to be honest. So that's pretty awesome to see this creature in the water. They're amazing to see them moving and how smart they are. Then we have some, in this case, this is an example of an hydroid. This is just a colony of cells that work all together and looks like one animal, but it's not an animal. It's just a colony, just like corals, right? It's a colony of polyps. This is a colony of cells. And each one of them has a specific role for the whole colony. So this is the man of war. Very stingy animal. We want to be aware if they are around, and if you see them in the water, please, it's better to move somewhere else or skip the dive, because the sting can be very hard. And even if you're finding on the shore, their stinging cells are still active, so you don't want to manipulate even if they've been in the dry beach for a while. Usually,
Quick question about the jellyfish. So when we have wetsuits, can they sting us like through the wetsuit?
Oh my God, yes.
Sorry?
I was gonna say, oh my God, yes, because I swam into an entire school of jellyfish in Costa Rica some years ago, and I had a wetsuit on, and I don't know if it just wasn't thick enough or what it was, but I had stings all over my body, and it was horrible.
The answer is no.
Okay, then I don't know.
Yeah,
I, don't know
I
what
think
hit
it
me.
maybe hit some places that where your skin was exposed, possibly, but it's
It was
I
all
wear
over
dive
me.
skin, and
They
I
were
don't.
like covering me everywhere, and I heard them coming, and I like didn't know what they were, and it just, I don't know if I just had like the wrong kind of suit or if they were too old or like what it was, but I don't recommend.
Yeah, usually if you have like a 3 mils or thicker, I would say the possibility to get sting is 0, right?
Yeah.
So only if you have exposed skin, that's where you can get sting. But maybe with a skin, and if you are very sensitive, you might get, the feeling of these animals. But I remember when I was doing my undergrad thesis, as it was cold season, and we were diving literally like the movie Nemo through all this jellyfish everywhere, not that stingy ones. But when we go out from Panama City, we always see the moon pie jellyfish. They're really beautiful, and you can swim pretty close, and anything's going to happen to you. Just keep your distance. You can approach them a little bit, but just make sure if you see one with long tentacles, try to stay away, and just be aware of your surroundings, because of course they're drifting, and sometimes you don't even realize they're coming your way. Okay. Fine. Also, another group of inverts that can have an impact on you, and you can have an impact on them, is the fire coral. And they're called fire coral because if you touch them, they can really sting pretty hard. It is the same thing. There are a colony of polyps, and the picture to the right, you can see some of these cells that's being triggered, and they used to catch part of their food, detritus or small plankton things, cells that are floating around. They would use that for feeding. Here is a detail of the stinging cells. So to our left, we see that it's contracted, it's like encapsulated, and have this trigger fish. So whenever an animal or something touch it, it will trigger the hollow poisonous thread to come out. It will come through your skin and inject protein that is what actually causes the stinging. Some fish or some animals will be paralyzed because of that, but in the case of humans, the power of that protein varies from different species, right? So here it's very common to find other inverts in between all these species of corals. Here's a brittle star. You can barely see the tentacles of the brittle star in between the coral. But please, the key is whenever you're diving in a reef, try not to touch the reef. It's very important to have a very good buoyancy control. Also, people like to come close and touch sponges, and remember that sponges have some what we call spiculas. Those are like small pieces of silica that come together in the tissue, and they can get stick to your skin pretty easy and cause a rash or something like that. So just they're beautiful to see, but try not to touch them. Another potentially dangerous life is the sea swab. They can cause severe damage to your skin, and especially if you are sensitive or suffer from allergies or stuff like that. Other species, sea urchins. This is the long spine sea urchin, the Diadema. At some point, it was endangered in the Caribbean. Now it's coming back, but in the last year, there is a new report of die-off of this urchin. They don't know exactly what is going on. And they're very important for the reef because they graze on the algae that grows on top of the coral, so it keeps the coral healthy. The service they provide to the corals are very important. So anywhere in the world where the sea urchins disappear, usually the corals will disappear as well, because algae will take over and there is a term for that, like cover and just suffocate the coral. In some places, people like to show like feeding fish, and some people like to do this, but especially in this picture, this is a really dangerous thing to do, to feed a barracuda. They are fast swimmers, and this is a practice that I personally do not recommend. And if you are in a charter boat and they're doing, just try to keep your distance and just stay away from a potential trajectory of one of these fish that they might be feeding. And then you become part of the food chain. So don't be concerned if you get beaten by one of these animals if you're trying to feed them by hand. I've seen that with morays, for example, too. Really, really dangerous thing to do. Never do that. And also happens with sharks. We have seen sharks many times. We just let them be, and they will usually stay away from you. And beautiful animals to watch in the ocean. Just don't trigger what can cause a feeding frenzy in them. So not fishing, not spear fishing whenever you're diving close to sharks, or sharks are around. I've never been into a shark feeding dive ever, but some people really like it. I like to go to a place and see all kind of sharks, but just that. I don't want to change their natural behavior. So it is really important to protect our environment, not touching the corals. Soft corals, they feel rough, and all these small pieces that we see here, each one of those is a polyp. So every time you touch it, you can kill that polyp, and that can start a disease in the colony. And it feels slimy, so there's not any worth of touching, because at the end you can cause damage to the corals. Also, whenever you are boating to a location, the anchor can damage the coral. Try to go to places where they already have like buoys where they can tie the boat on the surface while going diving. And here we see an example of a dying brain coral. There are different diseases out there. It's very important once you dive from location to location to disinfect your gear, so you don't move diseases, bacteria, or viruses from one location to another. That right now we are understanding a little bit more of how that happens, and the transmissions of diseases through the scuba diving gear. So, yeah.
Victor, yeah. So I appreciate, but you took some of my slides, which is fine,
Okay.
because I was telling Gabrielle how much better you are.
We're like,
the coral.
Victor's
I'm
so,
like, we should have this.
we're messaging each other like, Victor's such a good teacher. You're so passionate about, listen, let me just give a plug. Let me give a plug for Victor. Victor's program is fantastic. And so if you want to volunteer and get exposure to some of the things Victor's doing with reef monitoring, it is awesome. And he will teach you all kinds of things about, you know, the local ecosystem and what we're going to see in it. And we're going to do fish counts. And that's how I met Victor. And so Victor is very talented, and he has this program that will give you an opportunity to really get to see the cool diving that we have around here. Who would think?
Wait, how do I do this? I want to do this.
Okay, don't you worry. We'll follow up, and once everyone's open water certified, Victor will be sending information to everyone, and you can get plugged into him. And yeah,
Scuba friends.
Yeah, it's awesome. Victor
Scuba friends.
Victor
March
teaches us a lot.
March 25th, we have the training. Whoever wants to participate.
Hey,
It's
Victor,
a
can you
Saturday.
post that in Scuba Friends and maybe share a link to the group here too?
Yeah,
that would be
I will
great.
do that. Yeah, we agree on the dates today with FDC. So the 25th, I will be training people on fish identification and fish count techniques. And after the lectures, we will go to a pool and do a mock to understand how the process works. So I'm pretty excited. And after that, we will be doing a visit to the reef at least every other weekend.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So
I'll just say, when I was practicing my slides earlier, I was watching Victor, so he knows he knows all about it. But yeah, the program is very awesome. I actually did it not with Victor before I met Victor, and I did it in South Florida for the stony coral tissue loss disease, like citizen science diver initiative. But a bunch of cool stuff that IFAS does, and more reasons to be on Scuba Friends. So
exactly. And so yeah, Victor, just thank you, Victor, for being part of our team. And you'll all get to know him more, and you'll learn from him too. And we're just so fortunate to have him in our presence and be teaching all of us. So I did post, somebody asked about lionfish training. I posted a video. The cool thing about Scuba Friends is I really do try to find a lot of free opportunities for you to get more training too. Obviously not all of it's free, but we had free training on lionfish hunting, and it was phenomenal. And I posted a link to video recording of that. If you're interested in lionfish hunting, that's a great place to get started, and it's free. So, and Victor's training is free also, and it's just great. You'll learn so much. And also we have our Divemaster candidates and instructor candidates often give lectures, and those are posted on Scuba Friends too. So you can learn about even more things that are out there to know. All right. Ximena, take over.
Okay.
Thank you, Victor.
Right. So we're going to go over some diver responsibilities. If this lets me. Okay. So as Victor was mentioning, we want to be really careful with corals just because so many things can happen to them. And it's definitely our responsibility as divers. Like, we want to go out and enjoy, you know, the ocean or whatever body of water that we're in. We want it to be beautiful. We don't want to go look at a bunch of dead fauna or flora. So it's our responsibility. And also this is, we mentioned this before, it's also the dive buddy, because sometimes as a diver, you don't realize that things are around. So especially if you're diving in a place that does have a sensitive environment, then, you know, watch out for not only yourself, but for your dive buddy as well. And when you do that, when you are a responsible diver and a responsible buddy, then we can see like regrowth in good conditions, right? So everything that we do for our environment is just going to help to grow back things that in the past were not taken care of and in the present. So here is some healthy looking coral, which is what we want it to look like, because that's way prettier than the one we saw before that was not doing well. So this says bad anchor placement. Can anyone tell me why? Okay.
It's
well,
completely messing up all of the rock and coral.
Yeah, I mean, not only did they drop the anchor on the coral, they then sort of wrapped it around, you know, for whatever, or at least it looks like they did. That might have just happened, but it looks like, you know, they've tried to secure themselves by attacking the coral. Other than the anchor, what else do we see that is not being done well here?
The diver is not like horizontal.
No, very good. So yeah, not neutrally buoyant, not in the correct position. This is just in general bad diving physique, unless you're in very specific settings where this is how you're supposed to be. But in this setting and in most settings, you want to be horizontal and neutrally buoyant, not just for your air consumption and everything else. But in this case, because obviously their fins are either the one guy's might be already touching and the other person is about to. So we don't want that. This is damaged coral. So again, we looked at the other picture. It was really pretty, much better looking than this. This is not what we want to see, because also this is just a bad in marine environment, which means you're also not going to see all the pretty fish. And so we talk a lot about lionfish and stuff in saltwater. There's invaders to freshwater too. And one of the things I failed to mention before was, and I don't remember if Victor said it, but whenever you're diving in saltwater, especially if you're diving from one site to another one, you want to make sure to clean your equipment between sites, because if there's diseases or bacteria in one area, and then you go to another area that doesn't have it, you could be introducing that to there. And that is the same in freshwater as well. So you want to be kind of cognizant of the different things in the different areas that you're going. And if you definitely see something that's in one place and you're going to another place, make sure you rinse off all your gear and clean it out. So no impact diving. Again, talked about maintain neutral buoyancy. We do not want to be kicking stuff or hitting stuff or accidentally, you know, messing things up. Be neutrally buoyant. So it's important to practice and be a good diver. Don't touch delicate reef creatures. They're there for you to see, not to touch. Keep your hands to yourself like kindergarten. Avoid kicking sand on the coral. This can also affect the coral, you know, like that you're covering. It's, you know, it kind of grows almost similar photosynthesis like, you know, so it needs to be able to breathe and see and eat and so forth. Streamlining your gear, because again, this can do the same things as your fin. It can damage, drag, break, and so forth. And become informed. So again, like we talk about with planning your dive and diving your plan, anywhere that you're going, this has to do with learning your dive site. You want to go, you can look on different you know, social media sites where people talk about diving, and there's a whole bunch of different websites that you can go to become informed about the dive site that you're going to, the different things that you could see, and the different issues with that dive site that you then don't want to like transcend to your next one. And encourage others to learn. So anytime you're talking with anyone who's been in the dive community or is new to the dive community, you know, not necessarily doing it in a condescending way. You know, you don't have to teach through telling. It could just be conversations about how to be better stewards of the different diving environments that you go to. So some aquatic conditions, diving in a new area. again, goes back to understanding your dive site, knowing your dive site. What do you do when you're going to a new diving area? So you want to become informed. And again, you can do this if it's somewhere in the ocean. You can look on NOAA sites. You can look on different websites and different, particularly in the dive community. Again, you'll like identify as you start looking more online and joining different dive organizations that people talk about this type of stuff all the time. So you'll know. Matching your conditions to your ability. So if you want to go diving somewhere new and you start looking up at these places and they're talking about situations that you're not very comfortable in or have not dived in before, that doesn't mean don't do it, because if you don't ever do it, then you're never going to have that experience. But maybe you want to dive with a buddy who is experienced in those situations, right? Or maybe you want to dive with a person who's local to that area, local dive buddy, or you can hire a dive master or dive with someone who is a dive master. But I would say in condition situations is you want to probably dive with someone who knows that area and that condition well. If you don't have that opportunity, then you might want to look into hiring someone from a local shop. Check each competing shop. So this is not for saving your money necessarily. Like you don't want to go with the cheapest dive shop. You want to go for like the best bang for your buck. And when you're diving, that means you want to be alive at the end of your dive. And you also want to dive, not something that's just only safe to you, but safe to the environment that you're diving in as well. So Victor mentioned shark dives earlier, and that's become really popular. And, there's all these videos, and I think, sometimes we do like trying to get people to stop being scared of sharks, then that goes to people not respecting and having a healthy fear of sharks. And so that's become a big problem. And I've seen some videos recently where people are diving with people who do shark diving and they've been attacked. So more so what you want to do is make sure that you're reputable shops, right? Like that's what you want to look at with competing shops. Look at the different dive shops around. Again, go online to Facebook, social media, wherever you look at, people will talk about it. They'll talk about bad experience. They'll talk about unethical practices, things like that. And it's a little bit about like the best bang for your buck from the financial perspective. We don't want to like disclude anybody. I'm a grad student. I don't have a lot of money, but at the same time, I also want to make sure I'm not doing something selfishly that's just fun for me, but terrible for the environment around. And anytime you do dive somewhere new is super cool, and you've dived with a shop that did all the right things and they were excellent and you love them, post it on Scuba Friends so the rest of us can know about them and dive too. So freshwater diving, this is Florida. We're surrounded mostly, other than the top, by ocean, but we also have some really great springs, rivers, and lakes here. In other places, you'll have quarries. I don't think we have any around here, but
we have quarries here.
Okay, yeah, I'm as I've said before,
we don't
I'm
go there because we have so many better places to dive than quarries, but we do.
People tell me, they're like, oh, I've moved to this area, I can't. I'm like, you can dive in a quarry. I don't know what it looks like, and
it's
I'm
terrible.
Not really. If there was nothing else to do, I guess I'd do it. But we have a lot of really great everything here. So you have lots of choices. So people think about thermoclines often in the sea. These things also happen in lakes. If you go online, it says big lakes, but I'll tell you, I know we have a dive plan for Cherokee Sink. You could feel that change. It's like, basically the gradation between warmer waters on top and cooler waters underneath. And it's sort of this magical line of when you pass it, Cherokee Sink is really great for a lot of training dives, and Gabrielle likes it for the eels and things that you can find there, which is really cool. I'm not going to talk about now, but look it up. There's eels there. They come from the sea. It's pretty awesome. But you do feel that gradient. Like you'll be like, oh, this is so nice because it's warm. And then you pass it and you're like, brr, this is now chilly. So always be prepared. And seasonal visibility shifts. Again, we're in Florida, which makes for a lot of great diving. This also makes for a lot of rain and storm and other things. And so this is going to shift visibility, and you can go onto websites, social media, and find out, like, people are diving here all the time in different areas. So you can go on there and people will have, you know, somebody will be saying this is bad, this is good, which might change where you want to dive, right? Like if you're not comfortable or you don't like that, or you're not going there to see something else, then that could give you the opportunity to change your dive plan by going to a different dive location. And here's just, you know, some different dive locations. So ocean water movement, this is stuff that you need to be cognizant of anytime that you are going diving. Do not depend on the other people you are diving with, or even the, you know, when you go on like a big dive boat, like they'll have all this information for you, but you want to look that stuff up yourself because you want to be prepared. Like you don't know, again, if a company's just like, well, we'll go out even though it's mediocre conditions because we need the money, we don't want to cancel the dive, and maybe that sucks for you. So I would definitely go look that up yourself. You can look this up on NOAA. Look at winds and current conditions. That will also might like change, you know, depending on your comfort level, what time of the day you want to dive or where you want to dive. Waves and surf, so swells, wave height, wave length, this is all going to change, you know, how you enjoy not just the dive and your safety, but also getting to the dive sites on boats. I spent all of the entire time on the dive boat in South Florida last time we went, puking. The diving was great. I still enjoyed it and loved it, but the entire time we were traveling between the different locations, I was throwing up. The wave height that day was pretty high. And just the like wave train was very consistent, and that just did not work well for my tummy that day. And so those are the different things. One, swells, you know, if you're from Florida, you know what that is. Don't go, you know, don't go out and when it's bad conditions. Wave trains, again, you can look this all up on NOAA, but this is like the similar size and wave height and length of the wave, and as they keep coming. So you want to know all this stuff, because if it's a lot, it's dangerous and it's unpleasant. Obviously when you're under the water, right, it's like rain, like, oh, well, I don't necessarily feel it unless there's underwater currents. But once you're up, it's still not pleasant and it can be dangerous. And of course, surges, as we know from hurricanes, you know, people go out in these things and it's dangerous. The greatest loss of life happens during storm surges, so, or wave surges, so don't do that. Tides, again, if you're from around here, you know all about tides. But basically there's flood, ebb, and slack. So the tide changes high and low. This happens twice a day for both of these things, although some days there's only one low tide like today. So basically tide flood is the shift from low to high tide. It's when the tide is coming in, right? And then tide ebb is when the change from high to low tide. So when the tide is going out. You want to know these things because this is going to change the condition of a dive site, especially if you're going out somewhere like in the jetties. You know, this is going to change the way that you're going out into your dive site. And also they say, you know, different things come out at different times. These are all things that you want to look up and know. But anyway, tide slack is the time in between the tides coming in and out. So overhead environment diving. We have a lot of springs here. I think we have the most springs in the nation here. And in some of these places, there are overhead diving environments such as caverns. There's also caves here. You need to be certified to go into overhead environments, which is why if you saw Gabrielle mentioning like wreck dives without penetration, you need to be certified to do those things. So we'll go diving in springs and like gosh, the name is falling out of my head, Gabrielle, like the caverns, like in Blue Grotto.
We
like
don't go, okay, let me just be very clear here. We do not go in any caverns. There is, Blue Grotto has a very large overhead environment where you're still open water. And
Yes.
some agencies, don't like to go in there, but 90% of them do. We're going to take you in the big open area. We're not going to
Yes.
take you in a cavern. Never.
Right.
are we gonna
And
take
that's
you in a
why I was like, it's not called that, but just saying overhead always makes me
Yeah.
think that, and I couldn't remember the explicit language that you used. So I
Yeah,
just
and let me
wanted
just
to be
correct you on
clear.
the we don't do penetration dives on shipwrecks, but when we dive shipwrecks, we do swim throughs. So these are areas where we're not needing to have a line going through a wreck or anything, but we do swim throughs on shipwrecks. So these are things where it's just, you can't get caught in it. It's literally like one opening to the other. So not really penetration diving of a shipwreck, not technical, just, an opportunity. When we do pool session, you'll see that you're going to have a chance to do some drills through a hula hoop. It's going to help you with your buoyancy. And so this is basically like a big hula hoop in the ocean. You're going to get a chance to practice without, concern for hurting yourself. So.
So when we do go into these very open overhead environments or open overhead environments, it's not the same as a cavern. So if you think that's the same thing and someone like, let's go in a cavern, that is not the same. You need training. Talk to Jacob.
Please don't post, oh, I went in a cave today with my open water training. No, you did not. We're not taking you in any caves. Matter of fact, we don't dive in caves. Jacob does, but we don't dive in caves. The rest of us, I'm cavern certified. I have no desire. Cavern means you can see the exit. I don't want to be in a cave, and I'm certainly not going to take any open water students in any environment that's going to be dangerous for them.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It requires that you need lots of more equipment. And so we'll move on. This is not a cavern or a cave. This is a spring. So this is more like what we'll be doing. And yeah, so in like Morrison, you can peek in into this, not get in, you can peek through something that looks like this in, but you will not be going inside of it. Okay. So boat diving, like I mentioned before, you want to go online, you want to look at the different charters that are available, ask around, or even, you can search within like a, like Scuba Friends, you can search within that group, different locations, and you'll probably see a bunch of people already talking about it. If you can't find it, then I would ask Gabrielle. But other groups too, the same thing. So if you're going somewhere, you can go and look and you can see what people say about. And of course, like a Yelp review, right? Like take some of them with a grain of salt, but ideally you're trying to look for the best bang for your buck. So choosing a resort charter, season versus cost. So the beautiful thing, like with Florida, with diving in the springs, is we can do it year round, even in North Florida where it gets cool because of the type of weather. If you're not a person who gets cold very easily, or you have a really thick wetsuit and you want to save some money, like that might be something to look into, right? So then you can go to like some areas that maybe not like the most ideal time temperature wise, but if that doesn't bother you, then you want to weigh those things out. I would just be more careful when you're looking season for like some places have cheaper, like during hurricane season. Oftentimes you do not get reimbursed for things like that happen. So keep in mind when you're looking at season versus cost. Typical sea conditions. So what are some typical sea conditions? Again, when you're looking for a resort, look all this information up. Big boats versus a 6-pack. So big boat is like these huge ones. They could sometimes be 2 stories. They have a whole bunch of people slammed on. I'm not saying this is bad. Like, again, if this is how much you can afford, then, go for it and do it. Just be real cognizant that the dive site's going to be inundated with more divers, right? And just make sure that you are being extra careful and extra safe, because the more people there are, the more chances for something happening. As opposed to then they have like these smaller dive charters, which are, 6 or, 8, 10, 12 people. Research plan ahead, just like we talked about. Think length of stay versus cost. These are just different things you might want to look into. If you're going with your family and 2 of you dive and some of you don't, you might want to look at other activities that might be available for the other people to do and for you to do when you're not diving. Renting equipment versus carrying along, just look at the difference in cost. Once you get really comfortable with your gear, you might want to take it with you. And also, again, this is where you want to look up stuff, because some places you just don't know how well they're caring for your gear. And different places have different regulatory bodies that are looking at stuff. So again, just research it so you can make a good decision. And diving at a resort, just all the things we just talked about. Important to be well rested. Just because you're diving at a resort and that sounds like vacation, don't go drinking and partying the night before. Be well rested and don't be on any substances when you're diving. We've talked about this a lot. You want to be hydrated and in your peak condition so that you can enjoy your dive and have a safe dive. Just going to go over this really fast because to me, it kind of sounds obvious. So gear arranged, sign-in waivers. They're going to make you do this. Typically beforehand is what I see now, that we have a lot of electronic capacity. Sometimes you have to do it on site. One of the things that's really nice now is that a lot of them will accept like an electronic version of your certification card, but some of them don't. Make sure you know that so you don't show up to this dive site thinking you can show them an electronic version of your certification and they require the actual card. Be on time. They will leave you and not give you your money back. If you think you're going to get seasick or this is something that you have, I would just take it. Dramamine and some of these things are more like prevention. You should start taking it beforehand. But if not, there are things you can do. I have that little bracelet thing that squeezes your pressure points. That works for me sometimes. Obviously not the last time I was in South Florida. And then cameras, like, is it a good place for photography? If it is, what you want to look at the visibility, because you want to know if you need like a filter on it, with a different color gradient. So setting up your gear. Some places set up your gear for you, but again, we mentioned this before, you want to check that gear yourself. If they're doing it, fine, I guess, but I would try to do it yourself. If it's like what they do, definitely go and check it back up. And then of course, enjoy, but you're going to enjoy all this a lot more if you've gone and looked at all this stuff and you're well prepared, well rested, have all your things, you're feeling safe, and everything else. So why are you not going? Okay. So setting up your gear at the dock. If the places don't do that, you're going to do this. Typically, like you'll see here, they'll have your cylinder. You're going to go ahead and set everything up prior to heading out. So you want to be on time so you can do this and not be having to do this while the boat is moving. And you want to do gear checks, the same things you do at any dive site, right? So you want to make sure you have a nice, good, full set of air so you can have a nice long dive. You want to check for leaks. You want to check for the functionality of all your things, because once you're out, like, you're hoping they have like a kit or something. You should have your own, but you might not be able to dive if any of these things are happening. If you can identify that early, like, so if you get there early, not just on time, and you can check all this stuff, then you can fix these issues before you head out and be stuck out in the sea not diving while everybody else is. So dives, very important to listen to the brief. You should check all this stuff ahead of time for yourself, but things can change. We know how nature is, so you want to listen to the dive master, on the captain on the boat, because they will tell you all the things that you need to know. They'll also give you more information about the current at present. Again, these people are local, so you can go and look up stuff online all day, but they're going to be able to tell you better, right? In which way to dive with direction with your buddy. So this is something that whoever your dive buddy is at that point, like if this is a person you didn't come with and they've matched you with, and this person isn't paying attention, things to note. What type of lines are using? So are they using a trail line, which is going to be in the back? Like, different types of things like that you need to know to help you safely get in and out of the water. Is there going to be a current line because of the type of current line there is? Is there going to be a down line? Is there going to be a trail line in the back of the boat to get you back in? All these things are going to be dependent on your dive sites, and you need to know this so that you can be prepared and understand how you're going to get in to the water, get safely to where you're going to descend, and then get out of the water and enter and get back onto the boat. What type of entry you're going to do? Are you going to back roll in, or are you going to giant stride in? They're going to tell you all these things you need to know so that you're ready and comfortable when the time comes. So then gear up and then enter. They're already stopped here. They're generally going to give you a little beep, beep, 5-minute warning is what's always happened for me, but you know, they'll let you know. So that's why it's important to listen.
10 minute. It's a 10 minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when that happens and when they get there, it's fast. They're like, all right, boop, 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 get in the water. And so you want to be ready to go. So you're going to gear up when they tell you so that you can quickly enter the water. And these guys are giant striding off of a platform. Generally, that's going to be what happens on like a dive charter that's bigger. Smaller ones, sometimes you'll back roll in, but you're going to, they'll let you know. So, and then again, they're going to tell you how, like what type of exit you're going to maneuver. So at the end of the dive, when it's time to exit, when you ascend up to the surface, you're going to orally inflate your VC. So you're going to be floating there. If there's a trail line, you're going to grab onto that. And you're going to start like, you know, it's almost like a little row, like kindergarten again. And as you get closer, you're going to want to, when it's almost your turn, you're going to want to remove your fins. This happens really fast. So you really need to be paying attention. This isn't the time to not be paying attention. You're going to remove your fins. And this other picture is slightly incorrect. This person is holding their fins. I don't know. You're going to want one on each hand. And then depending on the water conditions, this can be very difficult. If it's wavy, I mean, that ladder can whack you in the face and hurt you. You can get bruised. You can flop off. Why do we think that this, or what is the reason this person has their mask in place and snorkel and mouth while they're coming up? We mentioned this on another
in case they
module.
fall back into the water.
Exactly. Yeah. So you want to be prepared. You know, your BC is going to be inflated, so you don't, you know, you're it's going to hold you up. So the fins is, you know, important to have with you in case something, you know, worse happens. But in the event that you flop back in, you want to be able to see and be able to breathe. So then another way you might go diving is by captaining your own boat. There is, you know, if anyone here owns a boat, you know, it's expensive. There's a lot to learn. You know, you need to have a boat license. You're going to have more insurance, all these things. Then you're going to want to check these things anyway, but you're going to even need to more so check the weather. Have a float plan, let people know where you're going. You know, I don't know how many times I've heard this, and I did underwater crime scene investigation. That's a lot of things. A couple of the cases that we looked at where people didn't tell people where they were going, or they gave them weird times, and then the people were missing for a lot longer than you know, they should have been before someone went out looking for them. Got to have a lot more equipment, methods of communication, a lot of fuel, very expensive. It was expensive before, it's more expensive now, and that just fluctuates, as we know. And someone should stay on the boat at all times. You know, something can happen with your line, your boat can go flying away, or floating away. And then also if you have an emergency, or, you know, you come up from your dive, not where you're supposed to come up, somebody needs to come and get you. It's going to be very bad if you have to, you know, you have an out of air emergency and now you all got to swim to where the boat is. So module 8 summary, a whole new world awaits. Learn, listen, then dive, very important. Be conservative. This is with your dive tables. This is with your equipment. Make sure everything is good, clean, ready to go. Be conservative with your safety and protect. And then let's go diving. Before we move forward, does anyone have questions?
All right, we have 10 minutes left, so we're just going to sum up a couple things and then ask you if you need any more review problems, but go ahead and do through hand signal. So,
okay, transfer of knowledge. So
this is next week. What we're going to be doing is transfer of knowledge means your test.
Yeah. And 80 above is passing. That's the important thing to know. But you want to get 100, you can do it.
No, we don't need 100. Well, let me just tell you, you noticed that it said requires oral review. We're doing, we always do oral review for everybody regardless. So we're all going to be going over it. The way it works is Ximena and Jacob and the rest of the leadership team will be facilitating you reading a question, telling us what you think is the correct answer. Each person will have a chance to do that. And we're going to go probably in like alphabetical order, which should be really interesting with 3 Virginias and 2 Julias, but that's what we're going to do. And yeah, the exam is actually going to be emailed to you. Okay. So I'm going to email it to you by tomorrow, probably tonight. And then you're going to take it. It's open book. Okay. So it's not that hard. And you need to be prepared and have it ready for next time. So you've got just over a week to do that. So next time is exam review. We're reviewing the exam and we're gonna talk through everything, make sure everyone understands the correct answers. Okay.
And this happens sometimes, at least with one person mostly. You need to come with your exam completed. Yeah. It's not doing the exam on the webinar. It's come with it ready to go. Have it done. All right. So review. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. How many pounds per square inch is at every ATA? How many starts at 1 ATA?
Atmosphere is absolute.
Yep. Sorry.
14.7.
That's right. And then what is the largest pressure change happens between what and what?
Go ahead and click and reveal that first question.
Okay. Well, it says it on the, that's just an extra one that I added. Okay. So at 33 for saltwater and 34 for freshwater. Okay. So the next question is, what is the percentage of our makeup of air? The nitrogen, air, and other. Oxygen, sorry.
78% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, and then the rest is other.
Yeah, 20.
Yeah, so it's 20.9. So I was gonna say, we just round up because it's easier, but 78, 21, and 1 is going to be the answer. But you are right, it's 20.9 and then 1, but 78, 21, and 1 is the way we do it. So can anyone tell me about Boyle's law?
That's the one talking about the balloons, where at 33 feet, it's half, 66 is a third, and 99 is a quarter.
Yeah, Boyle's balloon. So what does that have to do with what is inversely affecting each other?
Pressure and volume.
That's right. Very good. Okay, can anyone tell me Dalton's law?
So all gases act independently of each other?
Yes. Okay, what about Henry's law? The soda, old man on the porch with the soda. So this one is like has to do with the scent, right? So it's like the way that we have to ensure that we are coming up at a specific rate to allow the gases to come out of our system at a proper rate so that it doesn't basically fizz out, right? So we're trying to allow the nitrogen to move out of our bodies at an appropriate rate so that it doesn't cause us to have decompression and other bad stuff happen. Okay. And then Archimedes. What is this in relation to? That's right. Yep. Has to do with buoyancy. So then for our scuba cylinder testing, how often do we have to do a visual? And then also oh, go ahead, Virginia. I think I stopped.
Yeah, I missed the question. I'm sorry, my internet is really bad, so it keeps cutting in and out. What was the question?
It might be mine too, but so basically for your scuba cylinder, you have to do a visual, have to get a visual test done at a certain time period and a hydrostatic test period done at another time period. So can anyone tell me when the visual occurs and when the hydrostatic occurs?
The visual is every 5 years and the hydrostat is every year.
Okay, so other way around.
Oh,
So the visual inspection occurs every year, so that they're just, you know, sort of taking a look at it, making sure that it doesn't have cracks and all these things, you know, take a visual inspection. If there's something wrong with the visual, then they go further. Every 5 years, it needs to have a hydrostatic test. Does anyone know the pressure the amount of pressure they put into the cylinder for the hydrostatic? It's a fraction. So it's 5/3, just an FYI. Yeah, okay. So next part of our review, I think the first one was this. Okay, what is the temperature designation for when you have to start using a wetsuit, or when you should start using a wetsuit?
80 degrees below.
80 degrees or below, perfect. Okay, what is the first color to disappear in the water?
Red.
red.
That's right, red, so Roy G. Biv. And then how do objects appear under the water?
Larger than they are.
Larger and
Closer.
Close.
that's right. Larger and closer, closer and larger, right? So how often do we clear our ears?
Early
As
and
often
often.
as necessary.
Early and often, that's right. Let's see. Oh gosh, I can't read my own handwriting, sorry. Oh, what is the most important rule in scuba?
Always breathe.
Always breathe.
Yeah, always breathe, never hold your breath. So we're gonna review hand signs real quick. We're gonna go to these videos.
And it's
What
gonna
are
be real
these
quick,
people-
actually. So everyone
Yeah,
turn your
sorry,
cameras
okay.
on. We've got 2 minutes left and we're gonna finish, we promise.
I
Okay.
don't
Okay.
have a camera.
Okay,
Okay, so-
if you don't have one, just, you know, do your best. So
So these
actually,
guys are
what-
doing the ballet. Oh, sorry.
no. I'm gonna have you back up one. We don't want to see any pictures. Just go ahead and have them
Oh.
practice each of the ones on the
Oh,
left side, okay?
Okay, so okay underwater. Everybody do your okay underwater sign. Okay. Okay on the surface. Can be this. Some people do the ballerina. Up to you. So ear problems. Problem is your wavy hand. Ear is pointing to your ear. Hold this depth. All right, so your two chop hands
Or
chopping
one.
each other.
It could be one.
A one, okay. Buddy up. Your two indexes touching. Low on air. Fist to the chest. Out of air. And to the neck. Up or ascend. Finger point up. Down or descend. Thumb down. Help. So, underwater, over water, you'll know. And then marine life. So, you know, shark,
Lionfish,
turtle,
lionfish.
lionfish,
Mhm.
turtle, Gabrielle's favorite. Yep. Eel
Eel,
is, you know, pinchy mouth hands.
Octopus.
Yeah. Talk about that with your buddy. This is why it's important to know the site so you can gauge things. And then gauge is. So remember all of these, well, most of these are, some of these are commands, some of these are questions, so. All right, what is,
so we're gonna
what are
end.
these
We're
guys
gonna go ahead and
doing?
stop. We're gonna stop sharing now. It's 10.
Okay,
Yep, I never
Okay.
hold people later than I said. So we will, yeah, that's why I wanted you to just rush through them. But thank you everyone so much for your time and attention. Ximena, thank you for your teaching. Jacob, thank you. Bill, thank you. Victor signed off already. I am going to send you an email tonight that will have your exam. You'll have a whole week and then some to get it done. Don't wait till the last minute though, okay? If you have any questions or anything, please read the emails. I put a lot of effort into those emails. Read the emails before you text me and ask me a question, because I think I got about 14 text messages just in the last 3 days with answers that were already in the email. So please just read it. I do work hard on those. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. And we will see you next Thursday online.
good
Thank
night.
you.
Night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Hi, Nora.